Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for joining us for this session today. Please confirm I'm audible. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be having a session on how to make your e-invoicing journey a seamless one. I'm here with a number of other panelists. Femi Babem, who is a partner from tax practice at KPMG. We have Dotun Adediran, also a partner within the technology practice. I have Kemi Badebo, a manager within the tax practice. Marvelous Ajimuka, a manager within the technology practice. Kehinde Olubayo is a manager within the technology practice. And then myself, Tumi Akiade, I'm an associate director within our technology practice. So we will just take you through what you can expect to get from this session today, and then we'll transition from person to person. We'll expect questions to come at the end. So I'll be passing it to you now, Femi, to start off.
Okay, thank you very much, Tumi. Please, can we move to the welcome slide? And good morning to all our participants. Thank you for making time to join us today's session. Again, we know this is a burning topic for many companies, tax leaders, finance leaders. You want to know what this really means for you, and how you need to go about the journey of then complying. What we intend to do here for you is to give you a sense, of what you are expected to do and how KPMG can support you along the journey to become, very compliant with the e-invoicing requirement. We've, gone through this process ourselves internally, and so we understand what the requirements are. We know what your pitfalls will look like, and we know how to work with companies to address those challenges to ensure that you are properly onboarded and then can comply seamlessly with the FRS. So the journey for you, starts with clarity on what the mandate of the FRS is. We've done a webinar. We held a webinar, I think, last year or 2 years ago on this, and so in that webinar we had tried to provide a bit of context. The benefits we have as a global firm is that we have member firms within the KPMG network where e-invoices has been rolled out globally, and we've relied heavily on that knowledge from a global perspective. Even when FRS was still shaping this up, we had some contributions into what we think and how this should be rolled out. And so in this session, we try to provide a bit of clarity to you on what your mandate, the requirements are. As you would see from the guidelines the FRS has issued in terms of the timetable, companies now have up until, I think, 2027 for companies below a certain revenue threshold to comply. I think only companies that earn 100 million gross turnover and below are currently exempted. So as long as the revenue of your business is more than $100 million, 100 million naira, it's not dollars. As long as the revenue of your business, your gross turnover is more than 100 million naira, you will be required to comply with the e-invoicing mandate. And so in this session, we'll try and explain to you what that is, provide a bit of clarity. I'll be happy to take your questions. And then we will talk about how KPMG is currently supporting businesses. We have many options, or well, not many, but we have a number of options for your consideration. So some companies, from my experience, would prefer to have a middleware. Some would engage us to actually do the e-invoicing managed services for them. My colleagues will talk a bit about that more when we get to this section. A practical view. So again, remember I've said to you, we have currently supported a number of companies to do this. And so we have a practical view of what of the challenges with with the process, and can guide you and provide answers to address those challenges specifically. We'll then give you insights into the operational impact and the industry challenges that we see, and then help together with you, maybe not in this session. We'll be happy to have a follow-on session with you where we'll then help provide clear roadmaps, next steps in terms of what you need to do. So with me here is a team that, again, is very involved. We have developed our own middleware locally. And so we understand the nuances of the market, we understand the nuances of the technology. And so the team here, again, the local team that has developed this, will be happy to walk you through and provide guidance all the way. Remember, the benefit we bring, to your business is that we can combine both our tax knowledge and our IT knowledge, which is what we've put together in building the solution. But over and above the solution, we're also combining our tax and IT knowledge to provide services to clients and deliver value to them. So, with that said, I think I can hand over back to Tumi and welcome all of you again. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Femi, for at least starting that up for us properly. Up next, we'll now learn a little, just something around what this is really all about, where we started from in the country, where we are now, and why it matters, and what the rollout means for your organization. And for that, Kemi Badebo will be taking us through that section. So Kemi, over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Tumi. Am I clear?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, all right. Okay, so good morning, everyone, once again. And so I'll be taking you through e-invoicing in Nigeria, where we started from, where we currently are, and most likely where we are heading to, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we need to understand that this is here to stay. And it's not just happening in Nigeria, but it's happening across different countries globally. So where exactly did we start from? We started with manual invoices. A number of our businesses are currently generating these manual invoices and still sending via emails. But what we're transitioning to is to e-invoicing. And what e-invoicing is the electronic exchange of invoices between parties in a digitally structured format. So what that means is, rather than you having to generate your invoices and save as PDF and then share via email, you are going to be transmitting your invoices through your e-invoicing solution. So this could be your ERP systems, your accounting systems. I know there are certain companies that also have bespoke systems that they use to generate their invoices. So at the end of the day, you're going to be transmitting these invoices through those systems, right? And not just that, but it's also very important to note that there are certain details within your invoice that would most likely change, or better still, would be upgraded. And what do I mean by that? So what the NRS had done was that they had brought about an e-invoice schema, right? And this invoice schema, it contains certain fields that need to be on your invoice. So while rather than you having to generate your manual invoices, having the usual structure, you're going to be generating invoices and transmitting it through this particular system. So just a brief background, right? The NRS had introduced e-invoicing in November 2024. Now, with this introduction came the pilot phase. And this pilot phase, what the NRS did was they had handpicked a couple of companies to pilot test the e-invoicing flow as well as the framework on. And so it lasted between November and June, right? With the NRS announcing the deployment to large taxpayers by August 1st. So August 1st came, the integration rate was really low. And as a result of that, they had extended the integration dates to 1st of November 2025. So the expectation is that large taxpayers are supposed to have integrated their system by 1st of November 2025. But even aside of this, I know we're going to be talking about e-invoicing a lot with respect to the tax authorities, but it's also very important to note that this is a national initiative. So it's not just the NRS that is in on this, right? We have the Nigerian Customs Service, we have the CBN, we have NIBS, we have CAC, we have all these government agencies that are all connected within this e-invoicing. So it's very, very important that we begin to think along that line, right? If we haven't started, we need to start preparing. Now, how exactly does the NRS intend to implement this? What they have done is that they have separated the transactions, right, into four major transactions. So we're having B2B, B2G, G2G, as well as B2C. Now, depending on the type of transaction that you as a business carry out, that's the type of model that you would use. And so there are two types of models. The first is the clearance model, and the second is the reporting model, which is also known as e-reporting. So under the clearance model, we see that transactions such as the B2B, the B2G, they fall under such type of model. But for the reporting model, we have the B2C, right? And within these models, what you are doing is that you are reporting your invoices to the NRS. Now, there's a slight difference between these two models. For the first one, which is clearance, it states that you need to get your invoice cleared first before it is issued to the NRS. However, for the reporting model, because you're dealing with the final consumer, it's a bit different in the sense that you can report, right, either in real time or near real time. And what near real time means is within 24 hours of generating that invoice, then you can report that invoice to the NRS. Now, there are three things that make your invoice valid with respect to this e-invoicing. The first is the IRN number, second is the QR code, and the third is a cryptographic stamp by the NRS. And we can always go into more details on that, but it's very important that you note that going forward, by the time you're generating your invoices, it has to bear these three stamps or these three codes within that particular invoice. Now, it's very important to also note that what the NRS has done is they want to roll this out in phases, right? Like I had mentioned earlier, they've started with large taxpayers in August, and they are moving to medium taxpayers and then to small taxpayers. And the definition is quite different, from that which you see in the law. So for large taxpayers, with respect to e-invoicing, it's those taxpayers that earn a gross revenue of 5 billion and above. For medium taxpayers, we have between 1 billion and 5 billion gross revenue. And then for small taxpayers, below 1 billion. So what exactly do you need to start doing? Or what does this entail? Everything starts from your e-invoicing system. And like I mentioned earlier, it could be your enterprise resource solution. It could be your accounting system. It could even be a bespoke system. And what you need to do is that you need to ensure that this system or the information within the system is aligned with the NRS e-invoice schema. And so what that entails is that there'll be a lot of data mapping. You need to look through the schema to ensure that it's able to generate it. You need to ensure that you're able to test properly so that end to end, you are able to get your invoice signed at the end of the day. So how exactly does this work, right? In practical sense, how exactly does this work? So on your screen, you can see an integration flow. And this is where we come in, right? As KPMG, we start from your system. Everything starts from your system, right? The first is to ensure that your system is in line with the NRS's e-invoice schema. So we're looking at things like, do you have your business ID? Do you have the line extension amount? Do you have the customer details? So all of this information, they need to be generated, right, by your system. And so once that is settled, then you need to connect your system to our middleware. And this is, like I said, where we come in, right? We provide system integration services, right? And we have partnered with Access Point. So what you have is a full package. All you just need to do is to connect your current system with our middleware service. And so once that is done, our middleware is able to assist in generating the IRN number as well as the QR code. Remember, I had mentioned it earlier as some of the very important things that need to be on your invoice that deem your invoice valid. So once that is done, it transmits to an access point provider. An access point provider is the person that will transmit your invoice, validate your invoice in line with the NRS invoice schema before having to sign the invoice and then extract the relevant information as required by the NRS. Now, all of this happens in seconds, right? By the way, so you can see the flow from your e-invoicing system down to the NRS's system. Now, how then do you get the final invoice? I mean, everything at the end of the day is on your system. You are able to see or you're able to track it using a dashboard. But not just that, you are also able to see that on your system, depending if you want your system configured in such a manner, right? Now, with respect, and that is you this is you now generating and sending an invoice. How about you receiving an invoice? If you're dealing with a customer that is also integrated within the platform, what happens is once they send their invoice through their access point, you are also able to receive that invoice through our middleware. Now, that is the flow. So it goes from your e-invoicing system to our system to their own access point system and then to them and vice versa. This is how it flows. So moving on to the next section, which is talking about what the NRS rollout means. What exactly does it mean for you and your business? Now, remember I said that the NRS is rolling this out in phases, right? And they have started with large taxpayers. So they have completed the stakeholder engagement, which happened between January and June 2025. They had also completed the pilot rollout as well as the go live, right? At this point, they are carrying out post go live reviews, and then the enforcement is going to start April 2026. Now, what exactly does this enforcement mean? Now, in line with the tax law, the new tax law, right? Failure to integrate your system actually results in penalties. So you're having a penalty of 1 million naira for the first instance and 10,000 naira for each day you fail to integrate your system. And that's just one of the penalty. We also have another, which has to do with failure to use the system, which is 200,000 naira, right? Plus 100% of the tax due and an interest rate at the prevailing CBN monetary policy rate per annum. So it's very, very important that if you fall under the large taxpayer category, you begin integrating your system. And just to note, these penalties are, will I say, the tip of the iceberg in the sense that these are not just these are not the only implications for non-compliance. We also have situations where if your invoice is not compliant, then that invoice will not be allowable for tax deduction. If you intend to claim impute VAT on an invoice, this would also be very difficult because that invoice is not valid. And if you intend to source foreign exchange, remember I said that government agencies are also involved in this, right? And if you intend to source foreign exchange, this would also be difficult. So it's very, very important that as a business, you begin to think about this, right? For medium taxpayers, the stakeholder engagement is going to start between January and March, with pilot rollout in April and go live in July. Now, enforcement for this is going to be January 2027. And the same goes for emerging taxpayers, which categorize under small taxpayers. Theirs will be 2027 and then enforcement 2028. So all of this is just simply to let you know that this is here to stay, right? You need to begin your integration if you are yet to. The deadlines have been set as well as the enforcement dates. And so it's very, very important that we take this seriously and then we begin our integration process, right? So thank you so much. And I'll be handing back to me.
All right. Thank you very much, Kemi, for that. We know that there might be some questions. Please drop your questions on the chat box, and we'll attend to them. There will also be a question and answer section at the end. So if we just go to the next slide on how to actually start this journey. So how do you start? What do you need to start doing? And Kemi has gone into some details to tell us what we need to start doing. So let's go to the next slide. Good. Now, there are some imperatives that we've noted that taxpayers need to start focusing on quickly. The first is a readiness assessment. And this will cover your technology infrastructure, what kind of systems do you even have right now? Are they ready for integration? And then we also look at the tax accounting systems, the configuration. Are those properly set? So that when you need to transmit, what is being transmitted is accurate. As Kemi mentioned, this will be used ultimately for calculating taxes. Now, the next one that also needs to be done is to invest in a system, in an e-invoicing system, like the one that KPMG will be showing shortly, right? The essence is to be able to transmit in real time or near real time. And my colleague Kemi already did justice to explaining what near real time means as defined by the Nigeria Revenue Service, NRS. That's 24 hours, I believe. And then once a system like that is in place, another consideration is, okay, yes, you've done assessments, you've looked at your accounting system or whatever system you use to generate invoices today. And then what you now need to worry about is who connects it, who does that linking and integration to the NRS in the way that it needs to be done. And certainly security is quite important. Security of that communication, of that integration, and the platforms that will be involved in this whole new way of doing business. And the last thing we've noted here is because the operating model is changing slightly, it will be good to train the key stakeholders that are involved to help manage that change. So let's go to the next slide. Beyond those imperatives that we've noted, there are some steps to also take with the NRS. Again, NRS, because I saw a question earlier, is Nigeria Revenue Service, formerly called the Inland Revenue, Federal Inland Revenue Service. Now, the expectation is to get activated for this e-invoicing, right? The first is to log into the nrs.gov. The link, the URL is shown there, .gov/login. And with the existing credentials that organizations use for their Tax Pro Max. And when you log in, you have access to dashboards and different features. Now, what you're interested in doing is clicking on the Enable Me for Invoicing. That will be found on the dashboard. Now, the enablement form will pop up where you'll supply relevant information up to the point of getting what we call cryptographic or security keys that will be needed for the integration between your system and the Nigeria Revenue Service system through the invoicing platform. Again, that will be showing shortly. What's needed here is once you log in, you're able to download and get access to what we call the API keys. This API key is what the new system now will use in communicating with the NRS platform. The essence is to ensure that that communication is secure and it's private, because data privacy, data protection policies are also quite important. And these are also things that you will need to confirm that you are going to comply with. Now, let's assume that you've downloaded these security keys, the API keys, the cryptographic keys. The next thing is you will see a list of approved and accredited system integrators, right? You would have a way to also, you see list of approved system integrators. Now, what you want to do here is you want to enable, and we're able to also walk you through this process, hold your hand through this journey. What you get from there is an ability to test in what we call the sandbox or the test environment, right? Where as you are connecting your system today with the NRS system, you don't just go straight to the production environment. The ideal way to do it is to first test in a controlled environment to ensure that your system is communicating the right thing, your system is doing it securely. When all of that is done, then we are ready for go live. Now, it's important I mention here that the platform that we'll be showing you and that KPMG has worked on allows you to have that test environment communicating with NRS, and we also guide you all through till you are ready to send the real production live information. Next slide, please. Okay, so navigating the journey with KPMG. Next slide. So at KPMG, we have some value propositions that we believe will be beneficial to taxpayers and our customers at large. As you go on a journey like this, there are a number of services that you require. There are a number of capabilities that you also need. The first one is the tax gap analysis and process optimization. Now, what we're doing here is to ensure that we ensure that there's proper mapping between the kind of information that your system holds and what is required by the NRS merchant buyer system, which is this invoicing platform, really. We ensure that the invoices you will be sending, the different line items, the way they are categorized, the way they are codified is accurate, and ensure that it aligns with what the NRS requires. We'll do all that work with you. We'll help you refine your processes to ensure that it's seamless. The next thing is to look at your technology systems and the finance application that you have from the technology point of view, also ensuring that you are ready to actually do that integration to NRS, beyond looking at what you want to send now, what system will be sending it. The third one, which is the system integration, and this is where the solution comes in, is we are accredited as a system integrator at KPMG, and that can also be seen on the NRS portal, right? And by virtue of this, what it means is that our solution has already gone through rigorous checks, rigorous tests, so much so that we're able to plug to your own system and pull that information in a secure way to NRS. And then we have customers that also say, We don't have a system. And I'm talking to the fourth one here. We don't have a system. We rather just KPMG, can you help us manage this process? So we offer invoicing as a service where our managed services team are embedded into your own business, into your practice, and we're able on a yearly basis, we're able to just offer that service, help you out managing that whole invoice generation and transmission process. And as we do all of that, we also offer support for the platform. And we have customers that say, we want to do it ourselves. We have our team. For those customers, the value we are bringing to the table, we say, okay, carry on. But because we've done this successfully a number of times across the world, not just in Nigeria and including Nigeria, we're able to offer quality assurance services and the project management to ensure that you deliver that project successfully and in a secure way and on time. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay. And as we've gone on this journey, we've noticed some pitfalls. There are some common pitfalls that a number of customers, as we've observed it, are likely to fall into that we can help navigate away from. The first one is the complexity with the integration. The answer here is we've done it. We know what needs to be done. We're able to guide you. Evolving NRS guideline that demand technical expertise. Because the guideline comes from time to time, there will be notices that will go out from time to time. Our tax practice is able to support to ensure that we get you ready on time. Then just in case you're also concerned, and we've seen cases where there are operational disruptions where just because this integration needs to happen, some organizations find themselves where their system has gone down. Again, our practice, our methodology will ensure that this doesn't happen. And certainly, Kemi, my colleague, talked about the penalties for non-compliance. What we're saying here is that does not need to happen to anybody on the call. We have a solution. We have practices that will ensure that doesn't happen. We're able to take you to value rather quickly. Let's go to the next slide, please. Now, at this point, I'll be handing over to another of my colleagues on the call. His name is Kehinde, part of the team that got the solution ready, to just take us through what our solution is. We've talked about the system integrator. We've talked about the fact that KPMG has a solution, also named KPMG Integrated Invoice Portal. So Kehinde will take us through this solution, and he will work with one of our colleagues called Shil to just show you the live view. We'll show you a use case. So over to you, Kehinde.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. First off, I would like to confirm that I'm audible. Am I audible, please?
Yes, please.
Okay, good. So, like my colleagues have mentioned, we have a middleware. Now, to most people on the call that might not be technical, the question is, what is a middleware? The middleware, like the name implies, is just a man in the middle that is sitting between your e-invoicing system and the NRS. And we have our middleware portal has different features that we've built or integrated into. So one of the ways you can help you integrate with the NRS is via APIs. So you have your ERP system and you want a seamless integration with the NRS. We have APIs already built that all your system just needs to do is to plug into the APIs. We help you validate that the information is correct, like we've already previously mentioned, and send it to the NRS. Another option that we have is the SFTP option, where from your ERP system, you can generate an XML file. That XML file, you can store it. We have a secure folder where you can put those XML files. We read the information from that XML file and send it to the NRS. Then the third option within our middleware bracket is a SaaS portal. a portal where you can log into. For those of you that say we don't want you to touch our ERPs, or we don't even have an ERP system, we have a web portal that you can log into, and you can raise invoices on that portal, whether invoices in bulk using using XLS or CSV, or whether singular invoices. So all of that is within our middleware solution that we are providing, which is the KPMG integrated invoicing portal. Now, within that portal, we have a reporting dashboard that allows you to see at a glance the different transactions that you've carried out, the invoices you've raised, the VAT that has been collected, the total VATs. You can drill down to get more information about the invoice. We also have, like I mentioned, as part of our features, batch upload and reconciliation. We have situations where you have hundreds of invoices that you want to raise. You don't necessarily have to raise them one after the other. You can put them in a batch and put them on in either an Excel document, upload it, we validate the information and send it to the NRS, right? You can also we also have an interface that allows you to see every single step of the way where the invoice is, right? Then lastly, for access and compliance, we have an identity and access module that you can use to set up users. So if you have 5 users that today you want to ensure that they raise the invoices, you can set them up using our identity and access management tool. We are compliant, like we've already mentioned, both from the NRS and from NITDA. And that compliance ensures that the solution we are providing to you is secure, and you have no fear whatsoever in terms of ensuring that your data is sent successfully to the NRS. Next slide, please. Okay. Additional support outside of the platform itself that we provide is we can help you host the solution. We have users that say, okay, when we buy your solution, what is the next step? How do we go about it? We can help you host it, right? To ensure that your system is up and 24/7, there are no issues whatsoever. Now, part of what we are giving you as an assurance with our platform is that our platform is secure, right? You have no reason whatsoever to fear that there will be a downtime or whatever. We have dedicated members of the team that are ready to ensure that whatever issue you have is resolved ASAP. That also speaks to integration support. We have just recently the NRS released an update to the schema. And one of the things that we're going to provide to you is when those updates come, we're able to support you such that you don't have a situation where there's been an update to the invoicing schema, but you are not aware. With our solution or with what we are providing, we are ensuring that you are going to be carried along and you just don't have any reason to fear, right? Then another support we provide is ERP configurations. We have users that use SAP, we have users that use Odoo, we have users that use Microsoft Dynamics 365, different ERPs, right? And those different ERPs have different ways we need to configure them to be compliant. And so we have the technical capability to ensure that configuration is done right and in a proper way. Also, as part of our feature, is we help you do vulnerability testing. Now, you can say you don't want to use our solution. That's fine. We can help you test whatever solution you've come up with to ensure that it is not vulnerable and it is not open to hacking. Then also, another thing is we can help you with your platform maintenance and upgrades. Remember, I mentioned that the FIS regularly makes updates to the schema. Now, that updates to the schema, the updates to the features that you need to add, we can help you with all of that. Then lastly, we also help with tax reconciliation services. Remember that you're going to be sending your invoices to the NRS, and as such, there might be instances where it was not sent properly, or it was double sent or whatever. We can help with ensuring that reconciliation on both the NRS portal as well as on your ERP system is matches to ensure that you don't have any issues in terms of the whole e-invoicing journey. Next slide, please. Okay, at this point in time, I would like my colleague to do just run through on a demo of how the solution works. Sean, please can you share your screen?
Okay. Trying to share screen.
Okay, while Sean is sharing, this is just an illustrative snapshot of our of the features that we have on our portal. Next slide, please. So, like I mentioned, we have a dashboard that gives you, at a glance, the information that you have on your invoice. So the total number of customer invoices, the total number of vendor invoices that have been raised, the total VAT on the vendor invoices, the total VAT on customer invoices, what is the trend analysis that we have. All of this you can see at a glance on our dashboard. Next slide, please. Okay, then the meat of our portal is this invoice tracker. With this invoice tracker, we have a view to create the invoice. And like I mentioned, you can create invoices singularly or in bulk, right? So from this view, you can see at a glance the invoices that you've raised previously. What is the status of submission? You can see at a glance right now that we have some that have completed, some that are in progress. What date the invoice was created, what is the IRN number, which is very important. All of this you can see on the portal. Next slide, please. Then lastly, Lastly, you have the ability to also create invoices manually, where you put in the IRN number, the issue date, the invoice type. All of this will be showing shortly. Sean, are you ready to share screen? Hi, Sean.
Hi, Kenny. So, bringing up my screen now.
Okay. Good. Okay. So this is our invoicing portal. So let's get started. So we are going to be logging in as a user on the portal. Okay. Now, when you successfully log in, like I mentioned, you see the dashboard. This dashboard gives you an overview of the invoices you've raised. At this current point in time, because this is a fresh user, you do not see any invoice. It's just blank. Please go ahead to invoices. So when you go to invoices, like I mentioned, you have the ability to create invoices as whether singularly or in bulk. Please click on create invoice. So you can see there's add single invoice or add bulk invoice. Now, if you choose the bulk invoice option, you are given this interface where you can download a template. The template is like a guide that will guide you through the different things that you need to fill before you upload. So please go ahead and browse and upload the templates that we have. So yes, I get the file. Just click on upload, please. Okay, so the files have been uploaded successfully, right? So these are the invoices that we've created so far. So all you just need to do is just to now start the process of now sending it. The invoice right now at this stage has been created on our platform, but is not existing on the NRS platform. So the next step is to go ahead to start sending the invoice to the FRS. So the first step we are going to do is to validate the invoice. So validating the invoice ensures that this invoice meets the requirements of the NRS, right? So as it stands now, this invoice has been validated successfully and it's fine, right? So the next step is to sign the invoice. So after signing the invoice, and the invoice has been signed. So signing the invoice means we're adding the cryptographic key. Okay. So signing the invoice means we added the cryptographic key to the invoice to ensure that it is secure, right? So after signing, the next step is to now transmit the invoice to the NRS for transmit to the NRS and then the end user who is going to view the invoice at the end of the day. Okay, so the next item is to transmit the invoice. So this portal, I would just like to reiterate that this portal is for users who do not have an ERP or do not want any integration with the ERP, right? Those are users that we built this portal to serve. Now, this portal will allow you to ensure, it basically ensures that without needing to touch your ERP, you can raise invoices, and that invoices is transmitted successfully to the NRS. So that's what we have shown here. The ability for you to raise an invoice, whether singularly or in bulk, and send it to the NRS using this portal. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Ken. So just to reiterate, just scroll down a bit. The UK that we mentioned that there are a number of ways that we can connect to the FRS. While my colleagues were speaking, reading the charts that came through, if your scenario is such that you have a finance system through which you generate a, we're able to plug it into this system that we've just shown. So as you're generating your invoice, it's coming straight into this platform where we're able to do different other things before it flows to NRS. If you're also in that situation where you don't have such a system or you generate your invoices in Excel, I think I've seen a number of questions coming across regarding that. What if you don't have that system? We're also able to support the use case. Colleague is addressing just that where you put Excel text, and that can now transmit to NRS. Now notice that they did validate, sign, and then transmit. All of that ideally will be done automatically once you upload. But what we did for the purpose of this our meeting today is to show you the 3 things that needs to happen for that final transmission. You need to invoice needs to be validated. Yes, the data that's inside aligns with what the NRS wants. When we were speaking earlier, we need to download security keys that we
Write to me. You are no longer audible. I don't know if that's just me. I think there's been a network glitch. I'd like to confirm that I'm audible. I don't think Tumi is audible any longer.
Yes, you're audible.
Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Okay, so what Tumi was saying was that for users that our portal is for users that have that might not necessarily have an ERP system, or users that have ERP systems but would want a separate system for invoicing, for invoice generation. We've built that system to cater for your needs, right? So, okay, I think Tumi is back. Hi, Tumi.
Hi, apologies for that. That was channel connectivity. And maybe I'll just mention that that's part of the value that the solution also offers. If there are situations where, let's say, transmission fails, it's able to retry, right? If there are situations where things didn't go through the first time, or while transmitting, say your server or something were to go down your application, it's able to do retrials. So I think that will be it from that portion of the presentation. Now the last part of the discussion is around what we need to be doing. What we need to be doing now. Kindly confirm you can still hear me clearly.
Yes, Tumi, can hear you.
All right. So what should you start doing now? What's the call to action? And maybe screenshots can be taken before we send across the documents. The first thing is you can contact KPMG, right? Contact myself, Tumi, Kemi Badebo, Marvelous, Jimuka. Our email addresses are shown there. The next one is, as you're contacting us, let's know exactly how we'll support you. Do you want end-to-end integration to your system? Do you want KPMG to just manage the invoicing process, right? Would you want us to just support you as you do the project yourself? And then certainly, if you have not yet started, begin your journey on the NRS portal, just like we've shown earlier. We showed the step-by-step activities that is required. So with that, we've come to the end of the presentation itself, but we are now opening up for questions and answers. And myself and my colleagues on the call will be supporting with that. So we're happy to take all your questions now. You can type them. I don't know if our audience are able to speak, but if not, please let's type our questions, and then we should be able to close the call by 12 or a little bit after 12. Okay. So the first question I'm seeing here that's not yet answered is, I run a retail store. We have sales over 200 a day. We do not want to connect directly. What do we do to be compliant? Right? Kemi, do you want to take that, or Kenny, would you like to take that?
Sorry, can you come again with the question?
So there's a question from Folashade, right? And she's asking, I run a retail store. They have over 200 sales a day. They don't want to connect their system directly.
Okay.
Right? What can they do to be compliant?
Very easy. You use our invoicing portal. You speak with us. You get onboarded on an invoicing portal, and with that, you can seamlessly integrate with the NRS. It's just as simple as that.
Okay. Maybe just to add a little to that, the use case that we showed is that where you're able to put your invoice into an Excel template. That template is what you upload through our portal, right? And that will be transmitted to the NRS. That way you are compliant. If your system that you use is also able to generate some of these files, we can pick up those files from whatever location that you are dropping the file, and then that also will be transmitted in real time. There's another question here. Please, once we're able to send invoice to KPMG portal, are we the one to sign it of the access point provider? So what KPMG is offering is a complete package. We are are created as a system integrator. Now, what we've done in the background is to partner with multiple access point providers, such that even if one particular access provider, if you have a preferred access point provider, we're probably partnering with them. If not, we're able to ensure that your communication reaches NRS at every point in time. So we are offering you that service. Right? And you also, my invoices are not generated manually. We have a system that collate all invoices, merge them together. Is it merged? Is it the merged invoice that we upload, or do we need to separate them before uploading? Kemi, do you want to take that? What tax would typically advise, as well as how to connect to the, Kenny can now talk about how to connect to the system. And please, let's also type responses directly in the chat, just in case there are many of them. So Kemi.
Maybe you can come again with the question to me.
Okay. So Zainab is asking if they need to batch all the invoices together before uploading, or they can upload separate the invoices. They have a system that batches today.
Okay, so depending on what type of transaction you carry out, right? So if you're dealing with a B2B, for example, you would have to send your invoices in real time. And what that means is that you have to send it individually. So you're dealing with one company, you raise that invoice for that company, and with another, you raise their invoice for that other. Now, if you're dealing with a B2C, for example, and I think it's one of the things that you had answered to me with respect to the retail industry, you can decide to batch your invoices, right, and send at a go. Reasons because for B2C, you can decide to either go real time or near real time.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, thanks for that. And then there's a question that goes like this from Tinola, that Kemi mentioned that invoice won't be valid if they are not compliant, e.g. no QR code. Clarify the risk, as these are sales invoices, right? So Kemi, you want to just respond to that again?
Yes, right. So you had said that it's a sale invoice. Now, what I mean by validity is in line with the e-invoice mandate, right? I mean, we are in discussions with the NRS, and very soon it will get to a point where without an IRN number, it might be very difficult for you or customers to be able to pay, for certain invoices. So to avoid getting there, it's very essential that you have those details on your invoice. Now, what the IRN number is that it's a unique identifier of an invoice. So it tells there's no two invoices that can have the same IRN number. The same with your QR code. The way your QR code is generated is using the cryptographic keys that will be assigned to your company, right? And also within that QR code, once it is signed, that's where the cryptographic stamp will be embedded. So all of these things go hand in hand, right? And yes, it does make your invoice, but for the time being, right now that the NRS has, they are yet to commence enforcement. You can still carry out those transactions using your manual invoices, but sooner than later, that will no longer be the case, regardless of what type of invoice that is.
All right, thank you. There are some questions around cost. I think what we can say is that we are quite affordable. Just reach out to us. We deliberately stay clear of any cost question, but I assure you that you will be surprised that we are flexible and affordable. There's a question from Nasser, and I think, Kemi, again, this might be for you, right? What that says the practice in the organization is that the sales team raise and issue invoices, at least previously, and then finance then comes for customer reconciliation. With this new requirement, which is e-invoicing, right? Where is the finance team coming to support the invoice work? right? I would say, I mean, one of the things we'll need to do is to really look at your process closely, right? To understand what that flow should look like, right? The ultimate aim is to transmit um, and integrate such that you're able to send the correct invoice details, properly categorized and codified. And then finance then comes for. Okay. All right. Then Shade again says some customers refuse to give their details. How do we deal with this? For example, customers below the 100 million threshold, right? I think this would be the B2C scenario, right? So I'm assuming this is the B2C scenario. So just take that again. So Kemi, do you want to take for the B2C where they're not able to get some customer details?
Okay, I think Folashade has provided clarity. She says B2B, right?
B2B.
Now,
okay.
Yeah. So one of the things that the NRS intends to do and what they're using this e-invoicing for is to ensure that these businesses have a TIN. Because if we go granular, right, into the process in which we go from point A to point B with respect to sending and receiving invoices, the idea is that every invoice sent through the system should also be received through the system. So they are moving from you having to send things manually to you having to send it electronically. And the only way you're able, or the system in itself is able to recognize the customer within the whole process is through certain customer information, such as your TIN. Majorly, right? I mean, you have the name of the customer, but your TIN specifically is highly needed in order for the system to know where it's transmitting a particular invoice to. So if this is the overall objective of the NRS, then customers need to comply, or vendors need to ensure that they are able to provide this information. And, because one of the things the NRS, they had done in time past, that they were chasing after these businesses, right? They are chasing after these businesses to get their TIN done. But now they are pushing this to other businesses to do that using this e-invoicing. So a customer that wouldn't want to integrate would most likely face the penalty, right? Or risks having to lose contracts in the long run, because this, like I said, is a system that's here to stay. So I don't know if I was able to answer that.
Thank you, Kemi. There's a question from Adeyemi, and it's asking, Adeyemi is asking that the invoicing works seamlessly with entities that generate invoice immediately. Generate invoice immediately, performance obligation carried out, and client accept. But in a situation where the invoice of this January sent out in February, is there a platform for that in invoicing arrangements? Right.
Okay, so just to quickly answer that, this invoicing, there's really no time for it. And what I mean is that with respect to the context of the question, right? Whenever you generate your invoice, it should go through the system. So if you generate your invoice in January, it should have gone through the system in real time. If you're generating your invoice February, then it should happen in real time. Whether you are going to be sending it out in March, whenever you generate your invoice, it should go through the system. And if you look at the e-invoice schema, there are also, you see things like issue dates. There are certain dates that you can also put there. to note that whenever you're generating your, it has to go through the system.
Okay, thank you. Now, did that address the questions? Are there still more questions? Okay, those are questions from the chat directly. And if I come to the open question and answer section, so we're getting questions on the chat as well as Q&A section of Zoom. There are some questions here also. Now, the first one or the last one that just come into the chat is, how will the invoicing support monthly tax compliance obligation? All right.
Okay. So
okay.
just to
carry on.
The overall objective, one of the objectives, right, of the NRS is to pre-fill your VAT returns. So this e-invoicing platform at the back end is connected with the tax promax. So they are able to see invoices that go out and invoices that come in. And like I said, one of the objectives is to pre-fill it. So we're getting to a phase or a stage where rather than you having to carry out those calculations and you're trying to get your impute VAT versus the output VAT and likes, you just need to log into your tax promax and then you see the figure. Now, what you can do then is to carry out reconciliations. So how exactly does it support monthly filing? This is the overall, or this is where we are heading to with respect to invoicing. You are able to properly track every invoice that goes out of your system and that comes into your system.
All right, thank you. Now, if I come to the question and answer section, there are some questions around if you've transmitted and let's say there's a cancellation, right? So there's a cancellation. How do you handle that? And how can the system that we're proposing, how does NRS propose that that's handled? And how does the system support it?
All right. So with reference to cancellation or withdrawing of an invoice that has been signed, this is not yet possible on the NRS's platform. So once your invoice is signed, you cannot withdraw that invoice and you can't cancel that invoice. However, to reverse that invoice, you can either decide to raise a debit or a credit note, right, through the e-invoicing platform. And as much as we're going to be talking about commercial invoices as the main bone of contention with respect to documents that's passing through can take a number of documents outside commercial invoices. So we have things like debit note, credit notes, former invoice, instruction.
Femi, you're speaking on mute.
You're muted.
Sorry.
So,
can you just let me know what the
just take it.
Okay. So let me just take it again then. So what I was saying is that you cannot cancel an invoice or reverse any invoice on the system, right? This feature has not been enabled by the NRS yet. So, and this is not necessarily, what I'm speaking about is not necessarily our own system. We're talking about the NRS and invoice. You have to either raise a debit or a credit note, right, in order to reverse an invoice. Because at the end of the day, you need to understand that the NRS is storing this information. And so once they have one leg of the transaction, it's important that they have the other leg if that particular transaction is being canceled, right? Now, I also want to preface this to say that commercial invoices are not the only documents that are being raised on the system, right? You have pro forma invoices, factor invoices, self-billed invoices. You have statement of accounts. You have debit notes, credit notes. You also have shipping instructions. So we have a number of documents that you can raise through the NRS's platform, right? So in order for you to carry out any reversal at all, you have to raise either the debit or a credit note through the system. What you would now do is that you would reference the original invoice that you intend to cancel. So that's how to keep it balanced within the system.
Yeah. All right, thank you. And just to also say that, when we were speaking earlier, we said there are a number of services that KPMG will be willing to offer beyond just our platform that does the integration. Yeah, what some of these things that Kemi just said is precisely that point, right? That's why those services are important, to ensure that we're able to say, okay, when you want to transmit credit note, this is how you do it today. This is how you should do it now. This is the kind of information that you need to send from your system through our system to the NRS, right? And then certainly all of that also, the reconciliation platform that comes with our solution also then helps to visualize some of these things. Or I've sent this, it was reversed through these credit notes at this time and things like that. Okay, maybe just to take 5 more questions, and we'll probably call it a day. Still around how to make this really practical, there's a question from Celestine that says, while making reconciliation, is there a cancellation or a credit note? If there's a cancellation or a credit note that was issued to a customer, how do you handle that, knowing that VAT is already uploaded on ProMax, on Tax Pro Max? Okay. I will let our lady answer that also.
Do you want to take that again? Sorry.
Sure. So the question is around reconciliation.
Okay.
How does that work? If there's a cancellation, knowing fully well that VAT is already computed and uploaded on Tax Pro Max, how does that work? How does that work practically? And if I'll just batch some other question, the other question that's coming is around, do we have logs and audit trail as part of the solution? It is. There is on our platform, and also you're able to see everything that you're sending through our platform through to the NRS. Will customers be allowed to dispute an invoice after tax authority clearance? So this will probably go to yourself and Femi Babem. So the 2 questions on if there's some reversal, right? How do you reconcile what's on Tax Pro Max with this new invoicing, and how do you go about the dispute process? So do you want to take that?
Okay, maybe I'll start first, and Femi can come in thereafter. Okay, so for the reconciliation process, right? Now, all of this is done automatically. System or the platform is connected to the Tax Pro Max portal, right? Now, in a situation of reconciliation where the NRS has begun pre-filling you. So for example, you raise a commercial invoice, and for that particular invoice, you had indicated that the VAT on that invoice is standard VAT, and you send that invoice, raise either a credit or a debit note on that particular invoice. The same thing would apply. You would still have to select the VAT or the tax category that applies to that particular, that will still be on the debit or credit notes, and then you send. So it balances it out. So if you've sent 10,000 credit, you're going to be having 10,000 debit, right? So at the end of the day, you wouldn't necessarily have any issues. And like I said, once you're raising that invoice or either the debit or credit note, you have to reference that invoice so that on the NRS's side, they are able to know what that document refers to. So you're going to reference the IRN number as well as the issue date of the original invoice on either the debit or credit note, and then raise that through the system. On the NRS's side, they are able to see both the debit and the credit point of view, and so it's easy to reconcile.
Okay, so, thank you very much. Thanks a lot for that. I think most of the questions have been answered. Maybe I'll just take the last set here, and by 12:20 we will be happy to close the session. Now, it says, what's the scope of applicability of NIDA to all of this? Kehinde, do you want to take that?
Okay.
The scope of applicability of NIDA.
Okay. Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Okay, so NIDA scope in all of this is to ensure that whatever system that goes out is secure and compliant. What NIDA has done is, before any accreditation as either an SI or APP, you must first submit your system to them for accreditation. So that's what NIDA scope is. They must accredit your solution. That is, must go through different checks, cybersecurity checks, functional testing. All of that must be done with NIDA before you can have a solution. So NIDA scope in this is just to ensure that your solution meets their particular requirements before it can now go to other people to use. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Are there still questions that we've not addressed on the chat?
Questions about costing?
I mean, we would love to be engaged by our customers directly, and we'll work with you.
Okay. So someone mentioned the 3 codes that invoice must have for it to be valued. So for it to be accredited, basically, you need your IRN number and your QR code on your invoice for it to be a valid invoice by the FRS.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for the session so far. We thank you for making it interactive also. Let me just check with my colleagues on the call if you are still comfortable with staying maybe an additional few minutes to address any other questions that might come in. We're happy that it's been interactive. Many questions have come through the question and answer section, as well as directly on the chat. We will try our possible best to ensure that the content that was presented is circulated to all the email address that we have. This is also live streamed, so it will be available on our on the KPMG social media channels, YouTube, I believe, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, and other platforms, Facebook and the likes. So we can certainly make reference to this content. We thank you for making it quite interactive. I don't see any new question coming in, but Kemi, do you want to quickly go? I see your hand up, Kemi.
Yes. So I think I saw a question with respect to cross-border transactions. Just quickly, I think Vivian said, how do we handle cross-border customers? Okay, cross-border customers. All right. So just quickly, right? Now, because the NRS had just started this mandate, right? What they are making use of is the hybrid model. And what is in your invoices, there are certain circumstances where you will still need to PDF those invoices, right? And send to a customer. And what are the circumstances, situations where small or medium taxpayer, reasons because they are yet to integrate their systems. This is if you're a large taxpayer now, right? If you're dealing with a foreign customer, right, that has not adopted e-invoicing within their jurisdiction. Now, PEPO is pan-European public procurement online. So it's a framework, right? Very similar to the clearance model, where you send your invoice to your service provider and then it is being transmitted to the other service provider before it gets to the customer. So if you're dealing with that type of foreign customer, then you have to raise your invoices through the platform. If not, then once you get your signed invoice being raised from the platform, you can PDF that invoice, having your IRN number, as well as the QR code, and then, the cryptographic stamp, and then you can send via PDF, via email, right, in PDF format.
Right. Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you very much. I think the last two questions here, are you still required to file that monthly? And then the last one, does this whole invoice process place a duty on the business to deal with customer with valid TIN numbers? Let's take the last two.
Okay, so are you still expected to file VAT monthly? Yes, you are. The NRS, this e-invoicing, it hasn't reached everyone yet, right? And we're looking at 2028 being the time where, majority of companies would have onboarded, and then the transmission will be through the e-invoicing system. But so far, you still need to file your VAT monthly. Now, with respect to the second question, can you come again?
The invoicing process, does it place a duty on businesses to deal with customers with valid TIN numbers?
Yes.
That's education number.
Yes, it does.
Okay, please carry on.
Okay, because one of the things that you need to understand is that on the invoice schema, right? If you're transacting with a business, the customer detail is mandatory. Is one of the mandatory fields, and one of the details is the TIN. So you cannot even transmit your invoice without the customer's TIN, and that's if you're dealing in B2B transaction. So, right. So this is, yes, it is very important for you to get that TIN, a valid TIN.
And if it's B2C?
And if it's B2C, well, it's not mandatory. It's very optional for B2C transaction, because at the end of the day, you're dealing with individual customers, right? Some of whom will not necessarily have their TIN or even an NIN, right? So that is an optional field for B2C. But if it's B2B, it is mandatory. And another thing that the NRS recently came up with within the schema is for you to identify what type of invoice or what kind of invoice you're sending. Is it a B2B or a B2C? Because there are other implications that tend to happen at the back end with respect to all of these invoices. So long story short, if you're dealing with B2B transactions, those information is or are required, and it is very important for businesses to push for their customers to provide valid TINs.
Thank you.
Just to add that the NRS has mentioned that you can use, if you don't have a TIN, you can use your RC number in place of your TIN. Just to add that.
Thank you. Then there's a question on the aviation industry. Question from the aviation industry. And it says that how does our solution handle the aviation space, since NRS did not consider that during the last stakeholder meeting for aviation operators? Okay. So who will take that? Is it Kemi or Kehinde? And for the peculiarity, right? Now I can hear you, Kemi. For some of these peculiarities, we might have to sit with you, understand the peculiarities, and see how to make it work for you, right? But if you have an answer on this call, Kemi, please carry on.
Yes, yes. So you're very right, to me. So the thing is that when the NRS came up with this invoice schema, right? If you look at the schema, you see that with the manufacturing industry, the retail industry, and likes. But then again, once you take a step back, you see how applicable it is to all industries. So as much as, yes, maybe there are certain peculiarities that has to do with, your business and things like that. What the NRS really wants is information with respect to the transactions you carry out. So what do I mean by that? And this is where fiscalization comes in. I know we were talking about e-invoicing for the longest, but fiscalization is actually the recording, validation, and reporting of transactions in real time, and use different means to implement fiscalization, whether it be fiscal hardware, fiscal softwares. In this case, what the NRS is using is e-invoicing, right? But at the end of the day, what the NRS wants to see is your transactions. And so how your transactions, move from wherever, whether it be your e-invoicing system or whether it be you manually generating that invoice, they want to see those details. And that's why if you look at the e-invoice schema, you see that the mandatory fields actually applies to all businesses, right? So that's it.
All right, thank you very much. I think that's all the questions we have at this time.
There's a question on the chat to me.
I think my colleagues are super excited to remain on the call. We're also excited to continue to receive questions. We're just
one
time of our audience. So let's go for it. So Folashade is a recent taxpayer, and she wanted to register voluntarily, but is told that she can't. Is this accurate? Is this correct? Is this correct? So
maybe I want to understand.
It's not too clear.
Are you talking about registering on the system?
It's not too clear. So if Folashade can just provide additional context. On the NRS platform. Okay.
Okay. Where's that? I wanted to register voluntary, but I'm told I can't. Oh, you can actually register. So this registration, it takes less than 15 minutes. In fact, 15 minutes is a stretch actually. So the registration, it just requires few details, right?
So Kemi, so she has said she has tried. It hasn't worked.
You say you have tried on the platform. Were you able to receive the link?
I would suggest we take it out of the call and maybe have a short session with you, where we can do
maybe Folashade, you can just reach out to us. That we are able to.
Yeah. So there's something from Cosmos, and how would e-invoicing work for companies that send invoice later in the day after the goods have been delivered as a result of correction and adjustment of item post delivery? Okay. I think we have some customers that fall in this category also. The invoicing is real time or near real time. And near real time, as is defined, is 24 hours. So customers, I think there's still that leeway of doing transmission within 24 hours, right? And as Kemi mentioned earlier, there are different categories of objects or invoices or instruments that can be raised through the platform, right? The first one is, there are pro forma invoices, credit notes, debit note, different kind of instruments that can be leveraged to ensure that your business is well catered for, right? But there's also that leeway of 24 hours. So with this, I would say we've come to the end of our very interactive session. We are happy to continue the conversations directly with you. Our email addresses have been posted. We're happy to, and will still be reposted. You can reach out to us on LinkedIn. You can reach out to us directly via mail. Our names are kpmg.com, right? It's been a pleasure and a privilege to discuss with everybody on the call. Thank you for making it interactive. We look forward to hearing from you. We look forward to helping you achieve this compliance. Right? We've done it already. We've done it for a number of organizations in this local market and globally across Africa, across the world. It's certainly something that we know we'll be able to support you on. Thank you very much, and let's have a pleasant rest of the day and rest of the week. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.